What is going on, guys? It is your host, Neil Villapiano, and welcome to another edition of Mofobo Network Presents here on YouTube, the best place to get the most up-to-date news in the wide world of sports. As always, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your day to check this video out. And if you did enjoy this video, at the end, make sure to leave a like, a comment, and also subscribe so you don't miss any new videos that we post here on YouTube every single Wednesday. We have a very exciting topic, as we always do here on Mofobo Network Presents, to talk about, as today we are going to be recapping / celebrating the Los Angeles Lakers winning the 2020 NBA championship. Yes, the Lakers were able to get the job done, or as they like to say, job is now finished, and the Lakers were able to win the NBA championship. So we have a ton to talk about today. We're going to recap the series, and we're going to kind of take you into the journey that the Lakers had in arguably one of the toughest and most unique seasons in the history of the NBA. So without further ado, let's kick some Mofobo. So Game 6 of the NBA Finals was this past Sunday, and the Lakers were up 3-2. The Miami Heat had just bounced back to win Game 5. Jimmy Butler went off again. I think he had 40 points or something like that in game number 5, really put the team on his back. And to be honest with you, when it got to 3-1, I think that there were some quote-unquote memes that were coming out that were saying, oh, is LeBron James, who is one of the only players to lead his team back from down 3-1 to win a championship, is it going to be, role reversal? Is he going to end up blowing a 3-1 lead? And it certainly started to feel more like that after the Lakers lost game number 5. But going into Game 6, the Lakers just knew that they had to get the job done. They had to finish the job, and they did. They dominated the entire first half in particular. I mean, they dominated the majority of this game, but really in the first half, it was just a tremendous job defensively more than offensively, as the Heat had only 34, 35 points after the first 2 quarters. The game was already over by that point. So you already knew the Lakers were going to win. It was just a matter of how much were they going to win by. And the Heat made a pretty, heavy comeback in the second half, but did end up losing 106-93. And the Lakers finishing the series off in 6 games to achieve and get their 17th NBA title in franchise history. So for LeBron James, in his 17th season, was able to deliver the 17th title for the Los Angeles Lakers. This is the first one since 2010, when the late Kobe Bryant was able to lead the Lakers to back-to-back NBA titles. They won it in 2009 against the Orlando Magic, and then in 2010 when they beat the Boston Celtics in a thrilling 7-game series. And I think a lot of people thought that the Lakers would be able to compete for championships for the next couple of years, even though Kobe and the main core of those guys were getting older, including obviously their head coach as well, Phil Jackson. And unfortunately, it didn't go that way, as the Lakers had a handful of years where they just were not very good. And, they had new ownership with, Jeannie Buss taking over as the majority owner of the team, and then deciding to go into rebuild, where they drafted the likes of Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart. They basically were trying to go into this new era of Laker basketball. And then a year and change ago, when LeBron James was a free agent once again, he made the choice to come to the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think at first, a lot of people speculated that the reason he was going to LA was to get ready to focus on his acting career, his after basketball life, that he really wasn't coming to LA to win a championship. And I think what we all saw this year with LeBron just proved that he really did want to come win a championship. And I think he wants to win more than one in Los Angeles. I think that will help continue to cement his legacy as one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. So obviously his first year, talking about LeBron James, it didn't really go that well. He got hurt. The Lakers were struggling, and they ended up missing the playoffs. So it was an unfortunate thing, but that's how it goes. And during that season, when Magic Johnson was still the general manager / president of the team, there was that whole thing that the Lakers were trying to acquire Anthony Davis at the trade deadline. They were going to trade all of their, young players, including a handful of draft picks, to get him. but it didn't end up happening until we got to right before the NBA draft when the Lakers were able to acquire Anthony Davis for Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and a bunch of other assets to get LeBron that second superstar that he needed to play with. And so obviously the expectation going into this year was that the Lakers were going to be a championship contender, one of the favorites. And during the regular season, they really showcased that. They were dominant in many, many games. Nobody had an answer for LeBron and Anthony Davis. And it really did look like that the Lakers were just going to have a smooth, non-crazy type of regular season and get ready for the postseason. And then things took a very, very sad turn because on January 26th of this year, 2020, it was reported nationwide that Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna Bryant were tragically killed in a helicopter crash going to a basketball game. And that shocked not only the sports world, it just shocked the world in general because Kobe Bryant meant so much to the game of basketball. He meant so much to the Los Angeles Lakers, but he also just meant so much to so many people in different areas other than sports. He was a worldwide phenomenon. People in many other countries knew who Kobe Bryant was and knew what he was all about. And, it was just a shocking thing at first. I couldn't believe it. I was in New York City, actually at the Botanical Gardens with my dad when I found out that Kobe Bryant had passed. I thought it was a joke at first. I thought it was one of those clickbait things. But it turned out as the hours passed that ended up being the case, and that ended up being true, that Kobe Bryant did unfortunately pass away along with his daughter. And it was a very, very sad time in the entire world. A lot of people were really heartbroken by that. And, one guy that I saw really show out his emotions after Kobe had died was LeBron James. When he came off the plane after coming from one of the games, because I think the Lakers found out, in the air while they were on the plane flying back to Los Angeles, he went right to a bunch of people and just fell into their arms and started crying. And it was just one of the saddest things you could see. And then when the Lakers finally decided to get back to playing basketball, when they finally decided to come back after about a week and change of grieving, the Lakers asked LeBron James to make a speech. And obviously you knew it was going to be probably the most difficult and maybe the most emotional speech that LeBron has ever made in his entire life. And, I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember that LeBron said that he was going to do whatever it took to honor Kobe Bryant's legacy and dedicate this season and hopefully this championship, if they won it, to Kobe Bryant. And that was the mission that the Lakers had. So the Lakers then added more pressure and, more on their shoulders to try to go win this championship. And they continued to play really good basketball. I think even, from the time that Kobe Bryant passed away till, we had the situation that I'm about to bring up, the Lakers played probably their best basketball. And it really looked like that they were just going to run away with the West and they were just going to have an easy time getting into the playoffs. And then on March 11th, the season stopped with the Lakers sitting at 52-19. And the reason that the season stopped was because of the unfortunate situation that we are still dealing with many months later, and that is the COVID-19 pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic. And for several weeks and a couple months, people wondered if the NBA season and really sports in general was going to be able to return at some point this year. It wasn't just the NBA, it was the NHL, Major League Baseball was had to put on hold, the NFL, a lot of people were wondering if they were going to have to start on time. Sports like soccer, even in Europe, were being put on hold. There was a lot of questions as to, was sports going to be able to make a return at some point? And eventually, every single league was able to find some safe way for these teams to come back. And the NBA decided to play in a bubble at Disney World in Orlando, Florida. So they made that choice. And at first, teams were not, great about it, not happy about it, because they were going to have to be away from their families and be isolated for a long time. And if you made a long run into the NBA finals, you were going to be there for 2+ months. You were going to be there for a long time without seeing your family or friends. So this was a very difficult decision, but in the end, the NBA went ahead with it. They brought almost every single team, I believe 24 to be exact, or 20, I think it was 24 to be exact. But nonetheless, they brought those teams in. Every team had an 8-game regular season to determine all the seedings for the playoffs, and they got through that. But in the middle of that, or actually not even in the middle of it, during the stoppage of play, there was a lot of social injustice that happened during that time. And for those of you that know, yeah, I'm obviously talking about what happened to the likes of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Jacob Blake, Breonna Taylor, all of those, black people that were, unnecessarily killed by cops. And it was a horrific thing to see. And you're not human if you don't have emotions and anger for what you saw. And a lot of NBA players, a lot of sports figures, but heavily NBA players took to the streets with other people to protest, to, constantly promote social justice and the Black Lives Matter movement, and said that they were not going to allow this to just go over people's heads and make people forget about it, especially when the leagues got back to playing sports. That was something that that's why there were a lot of players that actually ended up opting out because of that reason. Kyrie Irving was the biggest one that wanted to focus on that aspect instead of just, also playing basketball. A lot of players, on the other hand, including LeBron James, made it a point that they were going to do both and that they could do both. And they ended up doing both. And at one point, if you guys remember, when Jacob Blake was attacked by police officers, the NBA actually put postponements on some of the games because players on these teams actually boycotted the games and chose to sit them out, saying that they wanted action. And I still don't think that the NBA made all the necessary steps that they need to do, but eventually the NBA players decided to come back and continue to play and continue to do what they wanted to do, which was play the game of basketball. But at the same time, I really wanted to applaud LeBron James, the Lakers, and the entire NBA for doing probably more than any other sports league when it came to fighting for social justice, promoting the importance of going out and voting, the Black Lives Matter movement, continuing to promote, equal rights for all, even women as well. It's a very important thing that these players saw all these things, knew that they weren't political things, they were human things, and wanted to promote them and wanted to put that in the spotlight as much as possible, annoying people, annoying a lot of people that maybe didn't want to talk about it or hear about it, or, would feel very uncomfortable being involved in it. And the only way to get comfortable is to get uncomfortable. And that's the way that the NBA players took to it. So that's what, LeBron and all of those players decided to do. And I applaud them 100% for, because I think even if it doesn't feel like a major step, I think we took a major step, during this. And I think we're going to continue to make bigger steps as we go along, especially once we get past November. That's my full belief, without a doubt. Going back to the playoffs, the Lakers came in, they lost game 1 in the first round against the Portland Trail Blazers. I think a lot of people were kind of wondering, because the Lakers really didn't play that well in the regular season 8 games, primarily because they had already made the playoffs and really didn't have anything to play for. But nonetheless, a lot of people were wondering if the Lakers were going to be having some issues early on and maybe get knocked out before they even get to the NBA Finals. Well, the Lakers settled down and were able to win that series in the first round in 5. Then they played the Houston Rockets, and the same thing happened. They lost game 1, but then won the next 4 to win that series in 5. Then they took on the Denver Nuggets in the conference finals, and they had some struggles, probably more than they had in the first 2 rounds, but were still able to win that series to advance to the NBA Finals. So at this point, now that we're at the NBA Finals, it really wasn't a surprise that the Lakers were there. But again, when you look at the journey and everything that I've just spoken about up until this point, you realize that this season has been way more difficult, way more challenging, and way more memorable probably than any season that we can remember as basketball fans. That's the reality of the situation. And they went into this final against the surprising upstart Miami Heat, led by Jimmy Butler, led by guys like Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, Bam Adebayo. They had a very balance of veteran/young players with a really good coach in Eric Spoelstra, who, used to coach LeBron James when the Miami Heat won championships, when LeBron was there with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. So there was a lot of connections. There was a lot of really good storylines. And, the Heat, I actually thought that they were going to give the Lakers quite the fight. And they really did. Through the first two games, it was pretty much one-sided with the Lakers dominating them. And a lot of people were wondering, were the Heat just going to get knocked out in 4 straight and that was going to be the end of it? Well, the Heat actually bounced back. Even with Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo out, Jimmy Butler put the team on his back to win game 3 to cut the series deficit to just 1. Then the Lakers bounced back and won game number 4, and everybody said, okay, well, that's the end of that. The Lakers will win it in 5. But then the Heat fought tooth and nail, played a physical game, and were able to pull out by the skin of their teeth to win game 5, like I mentioned before, to force a game 6. And again, a lot of people were wondering, are the Heat going to somehow come back from down 3-1 to force a decisive game 7? And the Lakers chose that they were not going to allow that to happen, dominated game 6 pretty much for the majority of it, and won the series in 6 to win the NBA championship. So the Lakers winning the title, I'm sure for a lot of you, is not a surprise. What I have said before is the biggest surprise is just how, tough the journey was for the Lakers and basically for anybody that got into this bubble and played in this season in general, how difficult it was to persevere. And it took a very long time to finish. We're in October now. And usually when we're in October, it's the start of the NBA training camp. Maybe we're starting to have some preseason games. We've already had the draft, free agency, blah, blah, blah. We already know what's going to happen. But, Commissioner Adam Silver already said that next season is going to be pushed to maybe, Christmas Day or possibly January 1st of 2021. So again, we're going to continue to experience unique new ways of season starting and new ways of watching these sports because of the impact that COVID-19 has had on everybody, including the world of sports. But going back to this NBA final, not much of a surprise that LeBron James ended up winning Finals MVP. He finished averaging 29.8 points per game, 11.8 rebounds per game, and 8.5 assists per game in the NBA Finals. I did make an argument that I thought that Anthony Davis had played a little bit better earlier on in this final. It just seemed like every single game, it was either LeBron or AD that was going to ball out. But when it came down to crunch time, it really wasn't a surprise that LeBron James was the one that put the team on his back and was able to, help deliver another championship to the city of Los Angeles. For LeBron James, this is his 4th Finals MVP, which this also makes him the first player in NBA history to win a Finals MVP with 3 different teams. He won multiple with the Miami Heat. He won one with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and now he just won one with the Los Angeles Lakers. And I remember after LeBron was given the Finals MVP trophy and he was being interviewed, he was quoted to saying, "I want my damn respect." And, LeBron has had his fair share of criticism over the years of him being in the NBA, from things like not being able to, carry a team to an NBA championship when he was with Cleveland the first time, being criticized for creating a super team in Miami, not being able to win more than one championship with the Cleveland Cavaliers, coming to the Lakers and having a disappointing first season, and everyone saying, see, he's just more focused on his off-the-court stuff than continuing to play basketball the way that he's capable of. And once again, I think LeBron took all of that criticism and just made it his motivation. And I remember him putting on Instagram, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, he was saying, keep it going, continue to, give debates, continue to give me, add fuel to the fire, because I love it that you guys do that, because it gives me that motivation to go out and prove it. And I don't think LeBron fully 100% cares about trying to become the greatest player of all time. I think he's just trying to become the greatest player that he can possibly be and try to accomplish as much as possible before he hangs up the sneakers. So I think that that's his main focus. And I do believe that the Lakers will be back and will be as competitive, if not even more competitive, going into the 2021 season. Look, Anthony Davis is a free agent, but all signs point to that the Lakers are going to find a way to give him a big extension, a big contract, so that he can stay with the Lakers long term. And I think that the Lakers will continue to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, out of the West, and certainly one of the top three, if not the top favorite to win the title in all of the NBA. But definitely this year, they proved that they were the best in the National Basketball Association. So congratulations to the Los Angeles Lakers on winning their 17th NBA championship in franchise history. Hey guys, it's your host, Neil Villapiano. Thank you guys so much for checking out this week's video here on Mofobo Network Presents. I greatly appreciate that you guys took some time to check this out. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to leave a like, also subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos that we post every single Wednesday, and also just leave a comment and let me know what you guys think of the video and everything else like that. So please do that. I would greatly appreciate it. If you want to check out more of this YouTube channel, like I said, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Mofobo Network Facebook page, where there you can stay up to date with the new videos that we post. We also have a podcast for Mofobo Network. It's called Mofobo Network Podcast, where it's available on Anchor and Spotify. Just like here on Mofobo Network Presents, we post new episodes of the podcast every Tuesday and Thursday, talking about the most up-to-date topics and content in the wide world of sports. So please go like and subscribe to that as well. You can stay up to date with the podcast, just like Mofobo Network Presents as well, on the Mofobo Network Facebook page. You can follow me on my personal Twitter at THENVPSHOW, and also on my personal Instagram at NVPQB11. If you want to continue to check out great content that I put out, you can check me out as the host of the Devils State of Mind podcast, which is the New Jersey Devils hockey team-based podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. On this podcast, in which we post new episodes every single Monday, I talk about all the news and notes and all exciting things happening with the New Jersey Devils, as well as hockey news in general. We have great guests that come on with some just great stories and so much fun. So please go check that out as well. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. So SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, wherever. Just search Hockey Podcast Network or Devil's State of Mind and you'll find it. Please also go check out hockeypodcastnetwork.org, where there you can see all the team-based podcasts and just other great hockey podcasts that we have on this network. So if you're a hockey fan, or if you're not, or if you just want to learn more about the sport, please go check it out, hockeypodcastnetwork.org. We have a Twitter for the Devil's State of Mind podcast at Devil's State. We have an Instagram at Devil's State of Mind. And just like Mofobo, we have a Facebook page where there you can stay up to date with the new episodes of the podcast posted every single Monday. And also on all of those, there is a link to the Devil's State of Mind website, where also if you just bookmark it, you can see all the new episodes that we post. So please go check that out as well and support me on there. And last but certainly not least, go check out my book right now on Amazon.com as well as Barnes & Noble. It's titled JETS Pain, Pain, Pain. It's about the pain and suffering of being a Jets fan for the Jets fan. And so, I mean, obviously you look at the fact that the Jets off to an 0-3 start, not really that great. But this book will certainly help you understand more about, why the team is the way that they are, why they've been this way for so long. We go through a lot of great painful stories, painful moments, painful player decisions, and everything else. So please go check that book out. If you're a Jets fan or a football fan, if you know someone who's one of those, or if you just want to support me, go check it out. It's available for hardcover and ebook for the price of $19.69. And if you're a Jets fan or a football fan, you probably guessed why I chose that price. So please go check it out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Again, JETS Pain, Pain, Pain. So thank you guys very much once again for checking out this edition of Mofobo Network Presents, and we will see you in the next video. And as I always say at the end of every single video, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what hardships you might be dealing with, just remember when you wake up in the morning to think positively, have a smile on your face, and kick some Mofobo. So thank you guys very much, and God bless.